I'm excited to share Bill as an exclusive sponsor of the Thrivecast. They have been sponsoring the Thrivecast for so long. Thank you, Bill. Our firm has been using Bill for over a decade now. We actually use it in all of our foundational CFO and controllership engagements. We have to turn all of our clients' financial processes digital, and we do that with Bill. And you can check out some webinars and blogs and even toolkits that I build with Bill to help in your firm. So thank you, Bill, for being a sponsor of the Thrivecast. Hey, welcome to an episode of the Thrivecast. We've got some special Thrivecasts coming up in November and December. So you're listening to November. They're going to be part 1 and 2 on strategic calendar work blocking. So this is a methodology that my partner and I use to run our companies. And a lot of people ask us about this, and we work with strategic calendar work blocking, this methodology, with a lot of the entrepreneurs we coach with and we consult with. So this part 1 is going to be a little bit high level. Part 2 is going to be more practical. These are going to be shorter shows, but I wanted to give you some things you can use for strategic planning as you go into the next year 2024. So let's start out by talking about why strategic calendar work blocking. So we talk about the word strategy. And again, everything I'm teaching are things I've learned in my own entrepreneurial career over the past 20 years. And the word strategy really just means being intentional. So if somebody says they want to be strategic about something in the future, they're basically saying, I want to be intentional. I want to do something on purpose. And there's no better way to see the visual representation of something you want to do on purpose than a calendar. A calendar shows all of us the time we've all been given. We all really are standing on the same footing, the same 24/7, 365. We all have the same thing. The way you use that 24/7, 365, that limited time, that's what makes people successful. That's what allows people to achieve things that others just can't achieve. It's the way in which they use their calendar. And not only that, it's the way in which they use their future calendar. So you blocking a calendar in the future is one of the ways to be intentional. So strategic calendar work blocking is intentionally blocking a calendar in the future in the way that you intend to live out your entrepreneurial life, your personal life, so that you can be successful and achieve the things you're trying to achieve. That's basically what it is. So as I mentioned, we're doing a November and December podcast, 2 parts, the purpose and definition of strategic calendar work blocking. So this episode is going to be a little bit higher level and some of the theory behind why we do this. And then part 2 is going to be the visual and the outcomes of something we call containering our calendar. So let's dive into part 1. Ed Batista, edbatista.com is somebody you definitely want to go and read his writing. He used to be mine and my partner Julie's coach. He's still an executive coach, used to be a Stanford leadership professor. And just some of the writings on his website are phenomenal. And so he even has a free leadership course online that we've taken our leadership team through. But I love this quote, and this really embodies a lot of why we do strategic calendar work blocking. He says, your attention is a precious resource that other people want more of, but the hard work of protecting your attention may be one of your greatest responsibilities as a leader. And this is really what started strategic calendar work blocking for me. So, as a reminder, me and my partner, Julie, run 2 full-time businesses. So I'm the CEO of 2 full-time businesses. Now, I'm the one who started these businesses. So they started to grow at a point in time. This was years ago, and I started to become very overwhelmed by my work, and I wanted to just stop it all. So I wanted to shut it down. And thankfully, I didn't do that. And it was because of this issue that I didn't realize my attention is something both of these businesses wanted, needed, and at the same time, a lot of people, right? Because our businesses are service-based businesses, meaning we serve people. Everything's a relationship. Building companies with team is a relationship. Building companies with a partner is a relationship. Building companies with clients and members is a relationship. And then, of course, you have personal relationships with my wife and my kids. All of these things represented precious resources that wanted my attention. So often let's say you're not that busy, and you can kind of waste some time, you don't really feel the press of the fact that the resource of your attention is being drawn from you. Let's say you go on vacation and you kind of get to do whatever you want. You could go out to dinner, you could take a nap, you could go to the pool, and whether you decide one thing or the other doesn't really matter in a space where there's not a lot of draw on the precious resource of your attention. Because when you're on vacation, you're meant to not give your attention to anything. You're just meant to chill and relax. But when you run two businesses, that's when I really started to feel the pull that I am not managing this precious resource of attention very well. And so my time was getting compressed. I was overwhelmed. I was not fulfilling a lot of my goals. I didn't even know what my goals were. I would leave work frustrated by not getting anything done. A lot of my days felt like chaos. And so we had to bring some level of order and structure to my days. Now, this is true for anybody. Their attention is a precious resource, no matter if you feel it or not. And there are times when you don't feel it, like on a vacation, but there are times when you're really under pressure to maybe achieve some big deadline or something. You understand the resource of your attention is very precious, and it must be intentionally directed in the right places to achieve that goal. It really became true, again, for me when I was running two companies. That's when I really began to feel the press as those companies started to grow. But not only does everybody feel this attention resource and the management of it, but also as entrepreneurs, it's not just a leader, but entrepreneurs also have a wrong perception that really tricks them. And this is something that really tricked me. Not tricked me, it was just a wrong perception I had about entrepreneurship, which was entrepreneurs can do anything they want. And that's actually a wrong perception. It is not true. Now, I felt it very decisively when I'm trying to run two companies. I started to learn very quickly that doing whatever I want creates chaos and disorder, and it really messes up every single day that ends in frustration. I end up not achieving my long-term goals. So that's really what I felt. So we tell people, when we coach and consult with entrepreneurs, we say you're not free to do whatever you want, but you are free to make any decision you want. And in that is your power as an entrepreneur. And it is a massive power. When you know as an entrepreneur, you have all the freedom to make any decision about your future that you want, it means you get to achieve some pretty big goals, which is pretty amazing. But it doesn't mean you can do anything you want if you want to achieve those goals, right? The pre-planned calendar blocking is what tells you what you're going to do if, in fact, you want to achieve that goal that you decided to achieve. So it's really a big decision. So Ed Batista is helping us understand attention is a precious resource, whether you feel it or not. And then as an entrepreneur, when you have the perception you can do anything you want, which is not right, not true, then you find you'll misuse that resource of attention as you go through your life, as you go through the intention of trying to create and accomplish these big goals in your business. So these are some of the things that kind of brought strategic calendar blocking to the forefront for me. And again, it's a methodology we created, my partner and I, to help me understand how to achieve things. So I wanted to define it just a little bit more. So here's really a definition. This is strategic calendar work blocking is courageously we plan a predefined future by blocking our calendars and then act as if it will actually come to be. The beauty is that when you're intentionally blocking a future, it actually does come to be most of the time. And that's pretty cool. which takes me back to that power that an entrepreneur truly does have, which is to decide their future. That is so amazing. It is so amazing to know you can sit down and go through a strategic planning exercise, and a lot of the things you come up with are things you're actually going to achieve by intentionally blocking them into a future. That's very cool. Now, one thing I realized when I got serious with deciding where my attention would go in life, I found out I had to be very courageous, because I had to start having conversations with other people where some people, your team, your partner, your clients, your members, your family, they like the fact that they have a say over the commitment of this precious resource called your attention. A lot of people want that from you. And when they have it, they feel empowered to have you in their life in the way that they define. But when you block a calendar, you say, I'm going to decide for me what I'm going to do, could be professionally or personally, you start to find you're going to be confronted with some conversations with people in your life, especially if you have a lot of relationships, a lot of people you're responsible to and responsible for, a lot of people you care about. They're going to start to have opinions about what you're saying you are dedicating your precious resource of attention to. So you had to be very courageous. So I blocked this calendar, and I would tell people, and this is what I didn't understand. I'd block this calendar and I go, isn't this awesome? They're like, no, I don't like you working then. Or, no, I wanted you to have that meeting here. And I'm like, I'm not going to have that meeting there. I'm going to have it where I've predefined where I'm going to have the meeting. So I started to have all these conversations until I could level out and balance with all of the people in my life the things I needed to do to intentionally achieve the goals in these two different full-time businesses that I was running. So I didn't understand at the time how much courage it takes to block a calendar. Not only courage with other people, but some people need courage with themselves, right? Some people don't believe in themselves. They don't believe they can achieve big things, which is completely not true. You can achieve some of the most amazing things in life. It does just take planning. It takes intention. It takes the courage to say, I'm going to achieve this by September 27th. And you block a calendar as if you're going to pull it off. And sure enough, you will pull off that intentional pre-planned blocking and plan to achieve that goal if you intentionally put it on a calendar. And so you need courage really for yourself to go, I don't want to block a calendar. What if I fail? What if I don't do what I said I wanted to do in my calendar? I'm going to feel like a failure. And so you have to fight through that, right? You have to actually believe you can achieve these things before you can even put them on your own calendar. And we find that in entrepreneurs. Sometimes they are very self-doubting people, but they don't have to be. And it's not magic, right? And it's not some magic pill or anything like that. It is being extremely ordered and intentional about where you're going to place your attention, which is the most precious resource you have. So let's take a quick break for a sponsor message, and we'll come back and keep diving into this subject. I'm excited to share Divvy as an exclusive sponsor of the Thrivecast. Unlike expense management, spend management from Divvy now lets us provide cards to our team members, apply budgets to those cards with preset levels up front for each team member. And as we've implemented spend management, we no longer have to deal with the messy receipts on the back end of our expense management process. Check out getdivvy.com. That's GETDIVVY.com for more information on managing your funds and moving them to the front of your spend process. Okay, we're back from our break. So now we're going to walk through what is this process of strategic calendar work blocking that me and my partner go through every year. So if you want to block a whole year in advance, that's what we do. Strategic calendar work blocking for us is blocking an entire year in advance. So the year we're in now that you're listening to is November 2023. We're going to block the whole year of 2024. So the first thing we do is we get in a room and we brainstorm and we go through strategic planning. So if you want to strategically plan for a year, a lot of people may try to do that in January, and that's not where you do it. You do it in November to give yourself time to think through your plan. Did you get it right? Are those the goals you wanted to achieve? Block your calendar, mess with it a little bit so that when you hit January 1, you are locked into your plan. So that's why we pull back strategic planning into November. November is when we do it. So, well, before we go to step 2, I just a few more points on step 1. We get in a room and we brainstorm all of the initiatives and the efforts of our time and our resource of attention that we want to focus on in this upcoming year. And this is a full-blown brainstorm. These are all the things we want to do. We get in a room and we write them on sticky pad paper with a Sharpie all over the walls. So we typically get an office in our co-work that we can lock because this is going to take us a week. It's going to take us a week to do it. Each day is planned as to what we're going to try to achieve in this effort of strategic planning. We brainstorm the whole year, all the things we want to do. This is high level, all the things we want to try to accomplish. It's a lot of fun to think through all those. And then we recognize a real truth in the life of everybody. You can't do everything. You can't do anything you want. So we start marking out things we just will not have calendar real estate to commit to. And so part of strategic planning is saying your no's up front, right? Is trying to get those no's said so that all of your yeses are what you put on your calendar, which we're going to talk about when we get further into these sessions. So strategic planning in November, we write everything down, then we mark a lot of stuff out, and then we go, cool, we've got about 8 to 10 efforts and initiatives of things we want to achieve. So an initiative it could be things like launch a whole brand new website, hire a whole operations team, right? 5 people for an ops team department. Do that. Is record and launch a brand new program by the 3rd quarter of next year. These are these big initiatives that we want to achieve. And we can only achieve 4 or 5 big ones because in our calendar is going to have, another 4 or 5 efforts we're going to commit to. Our efforts are going to be not necessarily project-based initiatives we're trying to achieve, but just the things we need to do to run our company. Like one effort is strategy and planning. That is something my partner and I do every week. We come together and we strategize and plan about the future. Now we're going to block that time so we do it in advance, but each week we come together to keep looking out into the future to make sure we're on the right track. Other efforts that we're going to commit our time to are we going to have space on our calendar for meetings, space on our calendar for team care, space on our calendar to produce the things that me and my partner are meant to produce. We don't produce a lot of the revenue in our companies. Our teams do that, except one company, we do produce a lot of the revenue, and that's through the effort of consulting and coaching. So we have to have blocks that are consulting prep blocks, or meeting spaces for some of the coaching meetings that we're going to be having. But for the most part, most of the revenue we're wanting our team to produce. So those are some of the efforts and initiatives that we come up with. And then what we're going to do is when we've locked all this down, we've listed all the things we want to achieve, all the efforts we've got to put our time to, we're going to get it on a calendar for a whole year. And we're going to container that calendar. Part 2 of this podcast is going to show you what I mean by containering. If you come back to part 2 in December, I'm going to actually show my calendar, and I'm going to show my partner's calendar just for a week to kind of show you what a container is. And then to container a whole calendar in advance, we use rhythms to do that. And rhythms are things that happen same time, same day, upon the recurrence. That's the definition of a rhythm. Same time, same day, upon the recurrence. And what I mean by that is anything you're trying to container into a calendar, that is, you're trying to define strategically the commitment of your precious resource of attention to the future. The best way to do it is in a rhythmic way, because that's a habitual way. So for example, we tell our team we're going to have a team meeting every week. So we don't just say, we're going to have a meeting every week, we say it's always on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And our team is around the country, so we all lock it into our calendar, and then we hit recur on our calendar, our Google Calendar. And that pushes that recurrence, that rhythm, all the way through the end of the year. So now everybody is in the same rhythm. And when you have a whole company locked into a rhythm, that's one way you can define a company all rowing in the same direction. You hear that phrase, and it is a real phrase. You want the whole team locked into rowing in the same direction. One way to do that is to lock them into a calendar rhythm. And you talk through this. You go, what's the best rhythm? Y'all want to do, the team meeting on Wednesdays, or do you want to move it to Tuesdays at 9? Why would we? Why would we not? Everybody fills in the things they want to do. And when everybody agrees, bam, we're going to lock in that rhythm. And so we're basically blocking our calendar, but we're letting the calendaring software container those things out for us. It just recurs. All we do is go, recur that block. And you can recur things on a calendar software, and it lets you say, do you want to do it every week, every month, every quarter? And then you hit the button and it fills out the rest of your calendar for you. So that's what we do. We leverage rhythms in our services-based companies to get everybody on the same page. Very, very effective. And that's how we create the whole calendar for the whole year. So what we may do for January, we'll go to the first week of January once we know what our calendar containers are. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll fill out that first week of January. And my partner and I will look at it and go, all right, does that meet all of our needs? Are we getting everything in there that we've planned in our strategic planning? Does that meet the needs of our team, our family? Are we balancing everything well? And if so, we then start recurring that maybe through the month of January, because each week will look a little bit different. It'll be similar, but it'll look different. And then once we got January locked in, we'll go back to the first week of January and we'll go recur, do this every week, the first week of the month. Bam, fills out that. We'll go to the second week of January. And if those blocks, those containers look a little different, we'll recur them. And it does the second week of every month. And that part takes, 30, 45 minutes once we've built that first month of January. And then the whole calendar is containered for us. The first time you do it, you think, man, I feel restricted and hemmed in. I don't have the freedom I want. Like, this is taking my freedom away. Those are some of the things I fought about with my partner. And she's like, listen, if you'll structure your life in this way, you're going to get everything you want. It's because the calendar is something I decided. It's the decisions I made. And the cool thing is, not only do I have the freedom not to do whatever I want, but the freedom to decide anything I want on a calendar, I also have the freedom to change that decision as well. But the purpose of blocking it in advance initially is to be intentional, is to say that if the world works out and life works out in this way, I'm going to kill it this year. I'm going to achieve so many goals. That's what we're trying to do. And it is amazing how much it does work out. Probably 95% of our calendar works out exactly the way we plan. And that takes a lot of skill and practice to get to that point. But it is a beautiful commitment and we love it. And then once we've containered the whole calendar, and again, containers are just big containers that fill up the entire calendar, then we layer on top the actual things that are happening throughout the year. So we'll have a container on the calendar that says meetings, right? Every Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., that's a meeting container and it recurs every Tuesday. And now our team sees it, and the team members that help us, set our appointments just layer on top of that container actual meetings that have been planned with Zoom meetings, Zoom meeting links inside of all of those calendar appointments. And so when you're looking at our calendar, you're always looking at two things. You're looking at the pre-planned intentional containering that we did during strategic planning, and then you're seeing the actuality of things being fulfilled throughout the year as they're being layered on top of that container. Okay, so why do you need to do this? So we're kind of coming to the end of our this episode in November. So why do you need to do this? 3 big points. There's many reasons, but I want to hit 3 big points. Is that strategy is a planning activity. We've touched on this. So if you want to be strategic, that means you want to be intentional. You want to do things on purpose. Then they don't happen accidentally. Achieving big things, anybody you've heard that achieves big things, they didn't just stumble into this bigness, right? It's all a planned activity. So it means you don't have to have some special skill or be some entrepreneurial rock star. All you have to do is be committed to intentionally planning a future, and a lot of it's going to happen. It's so exciting when it does, and you end a year and you go, I am killing it this year. I'm achieving so many of my goals. When you do it every single year, it starts to really feel fulfilling and encouraging. And sometimes a job that felt overwhelming can become a job you love and a work you're passionate about, because the process of achieving your work is no longer burdensome. It's so ordered. It's so structured. You're killing it. So now you really get to focus on fulfilling a lot of your goals, but you have to plan it in advance. So what we say in strategic calendar work blocking is, and we say this to entrepreneurs, you never want to walk into a day that hasn't already been pre-planned in the past. So a day you're walking through, if you can walk through a day that was already planned out for you, and remember, it was planned out by you in the past, intentionally in the future, you're going to always be more successful if you walk into a day that was already planned. We know entrepreneurs that walk into a day where their calendar is blank. It is completely white. They have no direction. They don't know what to do. And you know what they do? You can probably guess what's the first application they open when they have no intention and no plan. Email. They go to their email. And that's just the worst thing any entrepreneur on the planet could do, is operate and work out of an email. Email is not strategic at all. It is just knowledge transfer between the outside world and yourself. It's people wanting to take the precious resource of your attention from you. And it's probably because they need you, right? And we're going to see in part 2 how we plan things like that. But you want to walk into a day that tells you what to do. You want to be told to do every day by your calendar, and you will be more successful. And again, I fought this concept with my partner early on years ago because I felt like my freedom was being taken away. And she said, no, I'm giving you the things you actually want to achieve. I'm just asking you to do it in a structured order and intentional way. And it works. So strategy is always a thing you plan. It is not a thing you stumble into. This other one, leading a biz is a fight for the urgent versus the important. So no, you have to know when you walk into the future that the actual, what you actually walk into is pretty chaotic, right? That's the truth about entrepreneurship. Anything can happen any day. Sometimes it's very frustrating. Sometimes you just feel overjoyed that you got a lot done and you're achieving your goals. But you will find that business is always the fight for something that's urgent versus something that's important. So when you're pre-planning a calendar, you're trying to say, here's all the things that are important. But when real life shows up, obviously some things become urgent. What you need is a calendar that says, hey, if you feel chaotic and overwhelmed, try to stick to this structure. And when you do that, you can push off those urgent things, or you can try to think about those in light of already a pre-planned structure to your day and try to fit the urgent things in a block or in a calendar block where they need to go. And so this point is really making the point that entrepreneurship, running your own company, is just very chaotic. It's just, there's not a lot of order to it. The only order as an entrepreneur that you will feel in your life is the one that you created. And that's really important because the world does not impose order on entrepreneurs. They must impose it on themselves. And many entrepreneurs hate that. They hate order. They want to throw off the shackles and they want to do what they want, make their own decisions. That's not good for any human, not just an entrepreneur. It's not good for any human. I'm talking about people who go to the gym and work out and want to build muscle or lose weight. if they do it with a calendar, they will be more successful. It's just pre-planning. It's not that the calendar is this magic tool. It's the effort of pre-planning and walking into a day that was already pre-planned for you by your past self. That's what allows you to be successful. And it pushes off this chaos of always fighting the urgent versus the important. And then this last one is you can't trust your emotional whims. None of us can. Emotions are just something we all have to deal with. We have to fight with. Emotions are good. The emotions are very good. We should feel them. They're just ways in which we get to, feel the world around us. So these are good things. But often your emotions are not necessarily representations of the truth, right? If you feel overwhelmed or you feel sad or you feel tired or you feel excited, that may or may not mean you shouldn't or should not work inside of your calendar block. So if you walk into a calendar that is unintentional, that is let me say it another way. If you walk into a future that is unintentional, it has a lot of white space on your calendar. There is no predefined thing that you're supposed to be doing. Your emotions will kick in more, right? Because you'll finish a few things during a day, and at about 2 o'clock, you'll feel tired, right? So you'll hit that early afternoon lull or low. And if you give into your emotions and you don't have anything on your calendar, nothing you're supposed to be doing, though you should have pre-ordered what you should have been doing, and you look at your calendar, there's nothing to do, you may take off work. You may just skip work. Even other people in your life, since you're an entrepreneur, they may say, you're the boss. Why can't you just drop work and not go in today? And that's just not what entrepreneurship means. It doesn't mean you can slough off work whenever you want. Entrepreneurship means you have the power to decide your future. It doesn't mean you can do anything you want. It doesn't mean you can give in to your emotional whims. If, in fact, you want to achieve big things that you hear, these big success stories. So emotional whims are not something you want to put yourself in the place of having to fight, because it's tough, right? Especially a Friday afternoon at 2. Man, if you'll just kick off every Friday at 2 if you give in to your emotional whims, and it won't be good for you. You will be hurting your goals. You won't be achieving things. The next Monday, you'll be overwhelmed, or Sunday, you'll start to be stressed that night before you go into work Monday. All of these things happen because we were letting the emotional whims drive our calendar the week before. So those are things you have to be careful of. And emotions are part of all of our lives as humans. So pre-blocking a calendar and being intentional is a way in which you can fight what the emotional whim will drive you to do sometimes when it shouldn't. Okay. That is the last thoughts I want to get out on this high-level point on strategic calendar work blocking. We'll dive more practically next month into the practicalities of strategic calendar work blocking. Thanks for joining us on the Thrivecast.